tuatai ki te atua, nā nai humai te oranga. Ko te mihi tuarua ki te whare nei, tu tonu, tu tonu, tu tonu. E nā mate, taki heihira Julia, taku koro Bill Beatty, taku hoa Sir Patrick Moore and Mick Brown. Ko te mihi kia koe te rangatira o te motu. Kia ora Sir Jerry, kia ora Lady Janine. Mihi nei te kaharangi o te Peter Black Trust. Kia ora to you. It's rangatira o te Trust, Sir Ron and Chris, tēnā koutou. Ko te mihi whakamutuna kia koe te rangatira o Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, kia ora Ngārimo e ho, e te whānau o te Peter Black Trust, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Folks, I want to start by thanking you all, and particularly the Peter Black Medal panel, for honouring me in this way. I feel I hardly deserve it. Most of my achievements, such as they are, have been the result of the work of many in collectives of one kind or another. Partnerships with like-minded comrades, my business partners who have joined me in my dreams and flights of fancy, and perhaps undoubtedly, most particularly my Jenny and our girls, who have been so supportive of me, particularly in the last few months when I encountered a bit of turbulence on the health front. When I read this very generous citation, I reflected how fortunate I have been to have had so many opportunities to indulge my passion for the natural environment. I'm a generalist, and I've been able to spread myself over many causes, from campaigning for climate change science in Antarctica to championing the Save Our Soils movement in the primary sector, from promoting waste minimisation, which led to Living Earth, to my lifelong interest in conserving marine and terrestrial biodiversity. And today, when we look at the risks and opportunities in the natural environment, we're in a tiny slice of history, which is our lifetimes, and in which we now believe we are in a watershed moment. And how many previous generations have spoken of watersheds, I do not know, but for us, this watershed that we're in at the moment often seems like a tsunami, so powerless do we often feel before it. My paternal grandparents, or grandmother's parents, escaping the poverty of Ireland, immigrated to New Zealand more than a century and a half ago. The 5 generations that followed are shorter than a heartbeat in the geological life of New Zealand, have witnessed massive changes to nature, and little of it particularly joyful. More than 10 billion tonnes of topsoil, the biological engine of our economy, has been washed into the ocean, and we saw that just earlier this week in Wanganui, another example of it. The great Antarctic ice sheets, storing more than 3/4 of the planet's fresh water, accelerate their march to the sea as CO2 levels in the atmosphere breach 400 parts per million. And our national icon, the kiwi, whose population exceeded 9 million when Granny Fenwick was born, is now about 70,000 and heading for extinction. If you were to ask If you were to ask Jenny, she would tell you that I'm an eternal optimist. But now, if I look forward a century and a half on this continuum to the life my granddaughter's grandchildren will inherit, do I remain an optimist? Well, much will depend on her and what she teaches her yet unborn descendants and the respect and value that they in turn have for the sea and the soils and the air that supports them. Because I have no doubt that the destiny of the earth is dependent on the connectedness of people and the natural world that we share it with. And for us in Western societies, urbanised and detached, we've had to invent a name for it. It's called environmental education. And it's what Peter Blake and the trust, which is his legacy, is all about. Environmental education comes in many guises. It has many teachers. It reminds us where fresh food comes from. It helps us understand the links between our choices on transport and energy and the impact this has on the natural environment. And it joins the dots between our behaviour and the world we live in. Environmental education is not exclusive to young people. We all need it. It can be taught by great leaders, by humble teachers, artists, authors, scientists, parents, grandparents, and best of all, by personal experience. And it must be taught by example. So youth leaders, who are the beating hearts of the Peter Blake Trust, are vital. Importantly, the school syllabus shouldn't be changed to necessarily accommodate environmental education. Literacy, numeracy, the arts and the science are fine conduits of understanding and expression of the natural world. As Chris said a minute ago, one of many quotes attributed to Peter's America Cup leadership was his mantra to simplify decisions on complex design issues for the yacht by simply asking the question, will it make the boat go faster? This blindingly simple question has been used subsequently by politicians and businessmen from time to time to simplify complex economic issues. And for some, investment in protecting the environment doesn't seem to make the boat go faster. For them, protecting a forest or creating a marine reserve is an economic cost that would slow the boat. And if you take a snapshot of the market value of timber in a forest or a ton of snapper, they may well be correct. But to take a longer view of the ecosystem value of the forest, how it cleans fresh water, how it sustains biodiversity, how it sequesters carbon, it's a much more complex issue than boat speed. And it highlights the danger of taking the short view that sometimes elected politicians must take, and the flaw of using Peter's brilliant test for the wrong purpose. For the America's Cup was won in a regatta. The test for the country's ecological resilience is intergenerational. Folks, all of you tonight at this dinner have a relationship of one kind or another with a young New Zealander, as a parent, grandparent, neighbour or friend. So let's pledge tonight that this week, when we honour Sir Peter's memory, we find a young person and we tell them a story, or we dig a garden with them that might instill a value or a deeper understanding of their natural environment, and that might help them stay connected to the natural world that will support them. To quote Mahatma Gandhi, to forget how we care for the soil is to abandon future generations. Thank you again. Kia ora tātou.